is Diana Forsley here with VID TV and the first O3 Mining Town Hall Forum. Thank you for tuning in today from around the globe. That's the great thing about these VID Town Hall Forums. You can join in from wherever you are in the world and have direct access to O3 mining management. And of course, with us today, it is my pleasure to welcome O3 Mining's President and CEO, Jose Vizquerra. Welcome, Jose. It's great to see you again.
Good to see you, Anna. Good morning.
Good morning. I know that your shareholders appreciate the direct communication. After Jose's presentation, we will open the forum to a moderated Q&A session. So those who are in attendance, please let us know where you're from in the world. And in the chat section, please ask any questions that you'd like to pose to O3 management. And we will be happy to answer those questions. And also, very important, I would remind everyone to please fill out the questionnaire before you leave. The questionnaire is crucial to O3 Mining as it helps with investor communication. Jose will now provide you with an update. Jose, over to you.
Hi, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today on this webinar with regards to O3 and exciting news for us, exciting times for us on our pre-fees that has just been disclosed this morning and where we have very good results. O3 Mining is actually based on these four very important pillars, which are our assets, where we know Marban and where we are putting out our pre-feasibility today, our management, our financial strength, where we have maintained cash and expanded our cash by reallocating assets in exchange for shares in other companies, and our commitment to ESG, which has proved us that is our Eco-Law certification. Our results are very encouraging. It shows a net present value of $463 million at a 5% discount rate with a 23% internal rate of return, 161,000 ounces of gold on an average production, with an all-in sustaining cost of $882 per ounce, with a 6 million tons per day, or equates to 15,000 tons per day, 6 million tons per year, and an initial capex of $435 million with a payback of 3.5 years. We have sensitivity analysis here where we essentially show where we are on a pre-tax basis and also on a post-tax. And we can see that this project will be generating $660 million in terms of free cash flow, with a life of mine EBITDA of over $1.9 billion, which is extremely good. And into this, of course, we have to add any ounces that will be found in the 10 years as we continue to operate that will be adding into this. And as part of that, if we were adding an extra 150,000 ounces, that will essentially respond into the NPV as an extra $100 million. So this is very important because every ounce that we found will be essentially impacting immediately our ratio of net present value to capex, which is a very important ratio to have in mind. We are right now on a fundamental value basis. We are certainly 4 times, or if we take in consideration our cash and everything, 5 times from where we are in terms of our market cap. So again, our market cap is around $100 million. Our net present value now, on a much robust study than the PEA, which is our pre-feasibility study, is showing $463 million. Where we operate in Val-d'Or, Quebec, we are surrounded by most important major companies in the world, and which has very good practices. And this really shows and attests our ability to consolidate the area in Val-d'Or. You can see in orange all the area that we hold. And we are, you have to understand, in one of the best mining jurisdictions in the world, and an area where more than 38 million ounces have already been found in Quebec, Val-d'Or precisely. And an area where we will continue to find more mineralization, as we will see throughout this presentation. One important thing to understand here is where we are located and in terms of where the infrastructure is. And what we see in here is that we not only have roads, but we also have the railroads very close to the Marban project. And the Marban project is located only 12 kilometers from Canadian Malartic. In fact, the railroad, as you can see in there, goes through Canadian Malartic, which is an exceptional opportunity if we want to share synergies with other companies. As of now, and the basis of our presentation, we are assuming that everything is done by ourselves. Although synergies could be exploited, and certainly the asset will increase in value dramatically. In fact, only by using, and the IRR right now is unlevered, so if we take that, the IRR will go over 45%. Our project, as we can see in here, has been characterized by these 5 different faults, which one of them, of course, goes towards Kina. And the potential that we have in here is with regards to exploration and the synergies with regards to other players in the area. We have divided our projects in 2 main areas. In the area of Marban engineering, which is where we have our pre-fees, and what we call the greenfields area, which is the area where we continue to do exploration in the area. We can see right in here where the pits are going to be, and a couple of things that are important to mention is that we have been able to accommodate all the infrastructure within our ground, within the area that we control. We have been able as well, through the ability of our engineers, to avoid impacting the transmission line, which would have been an extra amount of money to be spent, an extra amount of time in terms of permitting. So this has worked precisely very well, and now we feel very confident of what we can do. Another point that has to be mentioned is the fact that even our pits have been limited to the area that we control. But in fact, from a mineralization standpoint of view, the pit actually continues. So if we were able to capture this ground in here, which is actually Agnico's ground, we could be expanding immediately our mineralization and even the resource in an important way. Our production has increased now from our preliminary economic assessment, which was around 116,000 ounces to 160,000 ounces of production, which is extremely good. And of course, on top of this, any ounce that we found will be adding in here in terms of production and will be reflected, of course, in terms of our net present value. Our cost in terms of the all-in sustaining cost, it's a very good cost. We are in the lower margin, and it's very competitive if we compare to other of our peers, and that excites us quite a bit. In terms of the capital cost, we have a capital cost of $440 million, and again, if we were to have synergies, some of these costs will be coming down dramatically, specifically on the processing and in the case of some of the facilities such as the tailings. So that impacts immediately the net present value. Again, as of this, for the purpose of this presentation, everything is with regards to what we control in ground, not using any facilities outside of our area of control. Our processing plant, it's a CIL, and we have been able to, by doing more work to understand the recoveries better, we have a recovery of around 94.2% average. On the exploration side of things, which will impact immediately the net present value that we have right now, understand that right now it's $463 million. If we continue to add ounces, that means that our net present value could go to 550, 650, or even more. For every 150,000 ounces that we add, or 160,000 that we add, we will be impacting the net present value by $100 million at today's prices with what we're using, which is $1,700 per ounce. And that certainly excite us because we believe and we know that there is more mineralization because we have been finding it. It's just not being incorporated into the study because they were not measured and indicated, so they could not be put inside the study. So some of the results that we have been getting in the areas of interest are the high grade and Malartic H, which is on the northern side of our property, and where we probably have are very close to have some resources there. On the Malartic side, there is still potential here to join these pits, same as in the area of Marban, on the extension of Marban on the northeast. There is potential for more, and if we were able again to consolidate the area in here, we could even increase that even more. An important point to be mentioned here as well is the underground potential, which we have been doing very little, but where there is quite a bit of an opportunity. Of course, now it's a matter of where we're going to be allocating our cash and how we're going to be managing this. So this is not an initial priority or the most important priority, but certainly it is important for us since the plunge is going this way, and where we know there has been other projects that has extended at depth quite dramatically, and that again give us a possibility for this mine not to be a 10-year mine life, but maybe a 20-year mine life by keep adding ounces underground. So where we are today, what we have been able to accomplish, we were able to do our PEA September of 2020. And as we said, by 2022, we're going to have the pre-feasibility, which we actually have accomplished that, and we will have the feasibility for next year. And we have had the measured indicated resources by March, and by September 2022, as we said before, we had the pre-feasibility. So what is next? Next is certainly the filing of our initial project description, the beginning of the permitting process, and the beginning of the initiation of the trade-offs analysis towards the fees. We'll be looking into different financial options into the project as we continue as well by keep showing the exploration potential in the area, because as I mentioned before, for every 160,000 ounces that we could be finding and adding this into the model, we will be adding approximately $100 million into the net present value of the project. So from here, what we see is a view from Canadian Malartic towards Quidenza and Malartic, just to have an understanding of, from Marban towards Quidenza and Malartic, just to understand where things are in perspective in the ground. So as a matter of conclusion, I remind everyone that we're extremely content and happy with what we have been able to accomplish. We had to do a lot of engineering and trade-off analysis as of right now, and we were able to produce a pre-feasibility study with $463 million, an internal rate of return of 23%, and levered, if it's levered, it's over 40%. So with that, I would like to conclude our presentation, and I will be more than happy to respond to questions that you have. Thank you, everyone visiting us from Miami, Belgium, and other places in the world.
Thank you very much for that information and update, Jose. That was a great presentation. We're going to move over to the Q&A section of this forum. So the first one is, what is the exploration potential at Marban?
Yeah, so that is a very important question. And as I mentioned before, the exploration potential is quite obvious. But I would rather pass the baton to Vizquerra, which is our Vice President of Exploration, for him to expand with regards to the exploration potential.
Okay, thanks, Jose. Good morning, everyone. In terms of exploration potential, now that we've completed the important conversion program to manage to have indicated resources within the pits, we now have the road open to explore more in depth the potential outside of the pits. And we see on these maps here where we believe that we have the strong potential to increase significantly the amount of resources around the project. The most two important where we're focusing right now is this Norlartic extension that we call. It's the extension of the Norlartic pits to the southeast along the Norbanite fault. There are many significant intercepts from historical drill holes, and we've been drilling intensively here since summer to expand resources in that area. And the nice thing about the Norlartic extension is that it lies directly north of the Marban pit, so very close proximity to the Marban pit. And the second area of that we are very interested in is the Malartic H to the northwest. That area has been explored in the past, showing a large number of significant gold intercepts related to dikes within the mafic volcanics units. So very similar environment to Norlartic, and as a matter of fact, the Malartic H also is also located along the Norbanite fault. So that zone is open at depth and laterally, and we plan to focus on that to increase rapidly the amount of ounces near surface. High-grade fault, also located near Malartic H. We've been drilling grassroots targets there in the past 2 months. So those intercepts are going to be subject of a press release to come, and very interesting story happening in that area, which is located next to the historical Malartic high-grade mine that operated high-grade veins, as the name says. They had an historical average production of 16 grams per ton, if I recall correctly. So many, and obviously we are also very interested in and optimistic regarding the Marban underground potential in the downrake extensions of the Marban deposit, and importantly, that Marban underground will target the Marbanite fault in contact with that puts in contact the ultramafic volcanics and mafic volcanics. Exact same similar environment to the Kina mine that lies not so far east along the Marbanite fault. So that's in a nutshell what we will be focusing on with the exploration and in the Marban engineering area. And finally, another area that we have to tackle is the entire rest of the property to the northwest. It's that we call Marban regional area. It's 6,300 hectares compared to the Marban engineering, that's only 1,200 hectares. So it's about 5 times larger. It was much less explored in the past, and as you see on the slide, it covers the extension of the main gold-bearing structures from the north, the Rivière-Eva fault, Norbanite, Marbanite, La Pose, and Parfouru. All of them having evidences on surface and in historical drill holes of good intercepts that are just waiting for follow-up. So that's about it.
Thank you, Luis.
Thank you very much, Luis. Another great question. What are the next steps in terms of permitting? And in order to take the project to production, how long will that take?
Well, thank you very much for that question. I think it's a very important question, because what investors are really looking at is what is next, and how long is that going to take from this point towards production. And I think there is no one better to answer the process of the permitting process than Mirza Bello, who is our Vice President of Environmental and Sustainability.
Thank you, Jose, and good morning, everyone. So we have been very proactive with regards to the permitting in advancing as much as possible all our environmental baselines, which we should complete in the coming months. As Jose mentioned in the presentation, we will be filing our initial project description, which will give the specific conditions that the environmental authorities will give us. But again, in our proactive state, we have been following very closely the evolution of regulations and the requirements that have been given to similar projects in order to have these lengthy studies in the baseline completed as fast as possible. We should get our specific conditions for the impact assessment in the winter or spring of 2023, so we can move on into developing our impact study. So again, as the feasibility, we need the feasibility to go to advance to be able to calculate this impact. We have been engaging with our authorities, again, in a proactive way, and again, to minimize any delays on permitting. And for now, we haven't foreseen any hiccups. We're according to plan to bring into production as we've been stating in 2026.
Excellent, Mirza. Thank you. The next question is, mining and processing costs in Canadian funds per ton, Canadian dollars per ton basis, are lower in the PFS compared to the PEA. Can you elaborate on what drove the reduction in cost?
Yes, we have here Jean-Felix Lepage from OIII Mining, who has been in charge of the project, so I'll be more than happy to go over that.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, sure. So there's many different drivers that drive the cost down since the PEA. The first one, obviously, is the increase in throughput, so reduction of overhead and fixed cost. Also, by increasing the throughput, we've been able to increase truck size and have gain on productivity on that front. Also, we remove the stockpile, the lower grade stockpile, so we remove the rehandling at the same time. So you remember as well, we shrank the footprint of the project, meaning that the mill is now closer to the pits and also the stockpile, so the haulage distance is lower. And at the end, there's also a cost reduction at the mill coming from the reagent consumptions that we have seen lower from the new test work. So that's the main drivers for the cost.
Perfect. Thank you. The next question is, what do you mean by unlevered post-tax IRR?
Yeah, so right now, the internal rate of return does not assume any debt. So if we actually add debt into the project, that will increase the internal rate of return. Usually in these type of scenarios, the amount of debt could be anywhere between 50 and 60%. So you don't really need to raise all the money, but in the very worst scenario, I would say it would be around half of what we have in our capex, which is $440 million. So we would have to raise around $220 million, from which, if everything goes well, we could possibly only have to raise around 150 or 140, since we already have around $90 million in cash right now.
Thank you, Jose. Can you describe the relationship between OIII and Osisko?
Yeah, OIII Mining is the spin-out from Osisko Mining, and Osisko Mining is a major shareholder of OIII Mining with over 23% approximately.
Thank you. The next question is, can you give a little more detail around the 6,000 meter underground drill program that you have planned? Where will the drilling be focused? And do you see the potential to add underground ounces in the FB mine plan?
Yes, so most of the underground will be drilled on the Marban side, so on the extension of Marban. So here in And yes, the idea is to, for the very minimum, to show the potential, and the focus will be on showing inferred resources. I think that at this point we need to focus on the feasibility study, but also show potential growing, although we're not going to be taking all these ounces to indicated resources because it will be a waste of money right now. Those ounces are going to be after year 10. But it is important to show that this project actually can be a project of 20 years instead of only 10 years.
Excellent. Thank you, Jose. A few more questions. Can you explain the increase in mill recovery since the PEA?
Yeah, we have done more work in different scenarios, moving from sales, from CIP, and that has been giving us better recoveries.
Very good. Do you have a good relationship with the indigenous communities affected by the project?
We do. As Mirza mentioned before, we have been very proactive with everyone involved with the project. This is not only indigenous relationship, but also our residents. I mean, there are people that lives around our project, and we have been having very good conversation with them on top of the major communities, First Nation communities around us.
Excellent. And how is the project perceived by the host community?
So far, all the comments are positive, if not neutral. So we're extremely happy on how this has been advancing and tackled by our team.
Great. What actions have been taken to seek social acceptability?
We have, well, I guess the first one is on the respect stand point of view. I have taken the effort to learn French, so the different presentations to the French community has been done by myself in French. We have done 2 city hall meetings on top of the different meetings that we have been having with the different First Nations.
Thank you very much, Jose. That wraps up today's O3 Mining Town Hall Forum. Thank you all for attending and for participating. Jose, would you like to say a few closing words to your shareholder audience? We have a full house in attendance today.
Yeah, there was a question here, sorry, that I just see on the G&A with regards to NDAs or CAs. Unfortunately, if I tell everyone that I have signed CAs, I'll be breaching my confidentiality agreements situation. So I would leave it as we talk to everyone. Leave it that way, so I don't get into any issues here with the legal side of things. And thank you everyone that has attended this presentation. We're extremely happy with the results that we have been able to accomplish. I think this is a very important milestone for us at O3 Mining. And I want to leave you with this idea that we believe in fundamental value, that we will keep adding in fundamental value, and that at this moment, the fundamental value of this company is 4 times where we are in terms of our market cap. So this is a great opportunity for you to join as a shareholder if you have not done it yet. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jose. And thank you everyone for attending. I'd like to remind you to please fill out the questionnaire. Once again, it's crucial to investor communication for O3 Mining. And thank you again. We'll see you soon. Thanks, Jose.
Thank you.